Rick trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease. Score!
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies Podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Hoagie.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the resurrection. It's the second time I've got to say that word in 1 week. The resurrection of Pod Street Prospects. I am John, and I am here with everybody's favorite sandwich holder, Hoagie. How are you, buddy?
Good. Happy hump day, John.
Is it Wednesday?
It is Wednesday. I know you don't keep track of that anymore because,
Summer vacation,
summertime.
man. It's all Saturday.
Yeah. Lucky you.
Yeah. So anyway, Hoagie and I have kind of had this idea for a little while to start doing a more prospect geared podcast midweek, maybe not every week, but for the next few weeks until there's really, real things to talk about, we're just going to preview different prospects within the Flyers farm system, kind of 4 or 5 at a time. And it made the most sense to start with the 4 Flyers prospects that are going to be in the World Juniors 2.0. As we all know, or maybe you don't know, but if you don't know, you're probably not listening to this podcast. But the World Juniors normally take place around Christmas time. They were taking place in Edmonton around Christmas time. And then what was that called again? Omicron?
Omicron. Yep.
Yeah, Omicron happened, and it lasted like 4 days, and they couldn't keep doing it. So they're trying it again. August 9th, Hoagie, first day?
Yeah, August 9th is the start, goes to August 20th. I think August 9th are like the preliminary games, exhibition games, just to get feet under them and get going.
Sure. I mean, and this one will look a little different. I mean, it's in August. There are certain players that might have been, scheduled to play or committed to play that are now going to be doing NHL training camps instead. So there might be a new cast of characters, but again, there will be some that are the same. Yep. Before we dive into the Flyers prospects, I think it's really important to kind of talk about what the World Junior Championships are as far as prospect evaluation goes, right, Hoagie? I mean, this is a tournament,
right?
This is not a season. This is one set of games, right? I mean, when you're watching something like the World Juniors and you're looking at, Flyers prospects or anybody, what are some things that are you looking for, and what kind of lens are you looking through it?
Well, from a USA perspective, you're looking at the kids that have always wanted to play for their country, even from the Canada perspective as well. Like playing for Team Canada in World Juniors, Olympics, what have you. It's kind of a dream, just like playing in the NHL. When you come into the World Juniors, it's not make it or break it because you're being noticed on that big stage, but you want to prove yourself as a player that can take his team to a championship, kind of like Cam York did as the captain of the USA World Juniors. When was that? 2020 now, 2021.
Right.
It's all jumbled together, but yeah, it's a big deal for these kids because that's what they are. They're kids. They're not fully developed. They're still learning everything, and it's good to watch these kids play against similar kids with the same skill set.
Right. It's essentially the best of the best within their age group.
Right.
And their countries. Obviously,
Yeah.
Right, you're going to look at a Canada a little bit different than a Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
But this is still a best-on-best competition for the most part. And the thing for me is, what are you doing to stand out? And is it positive or is it negative?
Right.
But like, I'm not necessarily looking shift by shift the way you might look if you're watching Elliot Denoyer in Halifax, right?
Yep.
It's more, what are they doing to kind of make their mark? Or are they Nolan Patrick Morgan Frosting it, like barely being noticed. Obviously, I'm talking about when they're on the Flyers, not in their junior days.
Yeah, right.
But let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right. So Flyers, like I mentioned, they have 4 prospects in the World Junior Championship. 2 of them are in Team Canada, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, we're talking about Canada, which is hockey, right?
Yep.
I mean, they historically breed the best players, especially the best young players. So just the fact that the Flyers have 2 players on that roster, to me, stands out.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that they're going to be world beaters. It doesn't mean that we've all of a sudden got the saviors. It just stands out positively.
Right.
Positively. I said that kind of funny. Anyway, first round pick of 2020, Tyson Forrester.
Right.
Right? You want to give people a little background on Tyson Forrester?
Yeah, like you said, first round pick 2020. Kind of a weird development to the pros, I should say.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, thanks to COVID. He was supposed to play juniors 2020. That season got canceled. Then he went to Lehigh Valley, right, to start off, and then
played well.
Played well during that shortened season for him, and then
asterisk really quick, Hoagie, too, because I think people like to kind of get hyped up about that AHL season. Remember, 2 words: taxi squad. It was a different league, right?
Yeah,
so those kids that were playing well weren't necessarily playing against the normal AHL talent.
Yeah,
continue.
Right, yeah. No, that's a great point. I forgot about the taxi squad during that season.
Right.
Went into the summer, started back up. I think he went to juniors as well. And what happens? He gets hurt, shoulder surgery, and that derailed him for the entire season. I think he played a little bit with Lehigh Valley towards the end, but not too much.
Just a slight correction. He actually started the year with Lehigh Valley. I think he played 8 games.
Okay, yeah, something like that. Yep.
And then got hurt, and then he finished out the year in the playoffs with Barry.
Yep. So, yeah, kind of a tough start for him professionally, but
right.
He's an exciting player, has a great shot.
He has what the Flyers need, right? And that's why he was drafted.
Yep.
His scoring ability, right, is his strength. And, I mean, Chuck Fletcher's said it time and time again, right? They need scorers.
Right.
The interesting thing with Tyson Forrester too is, at least in my head, he is somebody that I think that we could see this season.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'd be shocked if he makes the team out of camp. I think that he's somebody yes, he had the AHL experience, but those first 8 games before he got hurt last season, he struggled. He couldn't really produce. So I do think he is going to need some seasoning, especially coming off such a major injury. But especially if the Flyers are sucking like we expect them to.
I definitely think we're going to see him. Yep.
Right.
And I think if he makes it out of camp, a lot of things are going wrong on the roster for him to make it out of camp.
Sure. Because, and I want to ask you this, if he is on the team, right, where do you want him slotted?
I'd have to say 3rd line. You can't toss this kid into the top 6 and kind of expect him to just pick it up. I think 3rd line-ish minutes would help.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that you need to put him with trustworthy line mates. You need to put him with people who know what they're doing. Playmakers are going to be able to set him up. And I'm not convinced that the 3rd line is going to have any of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I almost wonder where it's unless you can create a 3rd line that does provide that.
Yep.
Maybe you do need to put him in the top 6. I mean, that's what they tried to do with Morgan Frost. Remember what feels like forever ago when he started?
What was that, 2019?
Yeah.
Something like that, where he's playing with Giroux and
it was 2 goals in 2 nights or something and then fell off. But
yeah, right.
that was his peak moment in the NHL.
Yeah. Yep.
But I do think that he's somebody where he has a skill set that's I don't think he can carry the line.
Right.
but he can finish on plays. So it's like if you can put him with two other very capable line mates, right?
Yep.
He kind of makes sense.
Exactly.
But again, I don't really think you're doing that unless the season is lost or he completely catches fire in the AHL. But if we shift to the World Juniors, right? Again, he's playing on Team Canada, which is essentially like the all-star team.
Yeah.
Go up and down the lineup from Connor Bedard to pretty much anybody else.
Yep.
What do you want to see from him at the World Juniors? What are you looking to see Tyson Forster do in this tournament?
I want him to look healthy and to have his game back, especially after this injury. I think there's going to be a big learning curve, but I think if he can put together his game and feel comfortable with his game, I'll be happy. If he pots a couple goals, that's great, but I'm not expecting him to go out there and be the all-star of the team. I think he needs to pretty much – I don't want him to get hurt again because I'm afraid of that happening. But
Sure.
I think he just needs to get comfortable playing competitively again because it's been almost a year at this point.
Well, I mean, he did play with Barry at the end of the year, right? So he did have that stint of time, and I'm kind of at a different place with you.
Okay.
I see somebody who, again, his strength is goal scoring, right? Putting up points. You're likely going to be on a very good line, right? I want to see those points accrued. I want to see you score the goals. I at least want to see legit scoring chances. If I'm watching this game and I'm not seeing Tyson Forster, if I'm not seeing him stand out, then there's a problem there, right? I think that when we talk about the other Canadian who's playing in the World Juniors, we might have a different conversation. But to me, first round pick, somebody that I really think that Chuck Fletcher's banking on to provide scoring down the road when Chuck Fletcher's not here. I think that you need to stand out and score goals, and that's how he's going to stand out. Either that or it's going to be in a bad way. Yeah.
That I don't want him to not stand out, but I want him to feel comfortable enough.
Right.
I kind of see this kind of as a preseason for camp and whatnot, so that he feels good. But I do want him to succeed. He's going to be slotted the top 6, right?
I would assume so.
That's what we're seeing. I've seen a lot of second line projections.
Right. Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to put him any lower than that.
Right.
It's so funny though, being Flyers fans, not just following the team, in a media capacity, actually being fans of the team. When we talk about prospects now, people are just just stay healthy.
Right.
I don't care what you do on the ice, just stay on the ice. It's so funny because all our prospects have been so beaten up.
Yeah, from Wade Allison to Morgan Frost to Nolan Patrick to
Bobby Brink.
It's just a laundry list. It's tiring.
Right. I mean, and you know what? If Forster's going to get hurt, it's going to happen.
Right.
But hopefully not, and hopefully he has a pretty good tournament. I mean, one of the things, and Samantha Weismer, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, she said stay upright on the ice too, which also brings up another part of Tyson Forster that we really didn't talk about yet, and skating. Skating has kind of been his issue, which I feel like always seems to be the case with our top end prospects. I remember when he was drafted, I was really concerned about his skating because he was somebody who always needed to trail the play. He would kind of give the outlet pass and then he would be trailing the play and then kind of be the last guy there to rip a shot. And I just felt like that wasn't something that would work in the NHL. It does look that he has improved.
Yeah. And
he's got more of a man body now.
It's been 2 years. So
Right. With, on again, off again ice time.
But if you're doing stuff off the ice to help with that, I'm sure it helps on the ice.
And I do wonder too if that's something that we can really evaluate in the World Juniors, or if that's something that you have to wait until he starts playing at that pro level to really see if it stands out.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, on to the next guy.
Yep.
One of your favorite prospects,
Sure.
pretty much because of all the hype that gets into this guy. But Elliot Denoye, right? Same draft, 2020 fifth round pick. Hogue, you want to give it a little bit more background?
Plays with Halifax in the Q. 61 games last season, 42 goals, 46 assists. Jeez. Not a big deal. Can put up the points. I think that's what everybody is excited for because they're seeing all these flashy numbers. And I'm like, kind of slow down. He's a fifth round pick. We traded up to get him, which was surprising. He's a good player. You can see that. But
Sure.
I'm afraid that we have the Morgan Frost effect here on this kid, that he might not transition that game. So here's
the interesting thing, though, right? So 203 points in 220 Q games, because I don't feel like saying the rest of it. Fifth round pick. I don't think that part matters anymore.
Right.
The fact that he was a fifth round pick, I don't care. 203 points in 220 games or whatever it was is impressive.
Yeah.
Especially in Halifax, he became team captain. The interesting thing with him is everybody projects him as a bottom six forward. He's got a very smart two-way game.
Yep.
He thinks the game very intelligently. He's disciplined on defense. But as we've said countless times on our show, does this team need another bottom six forward? Right?
Just go back to our last show.
Exactly. Exactly. So what I want to push is let's open this up to what if he can produce some points? What if this isn't a fluke? What if this just wasn't there before he was drafted and he's actually able to produce points? Now, maybe you don't have a top line player, but maybe you got a middle six guy instead of somebody who peaks at the third line occasionally, And that's, I think, what I'm looking forward to seeing the most with him, not only at the World Juniors, but more kind of in the AHL, is can he keep some sort of scoring prowess?
Right.
Does it fall off completely? I mean, we know that the Q is a very different game than the OHL is a very different game than the WHL. So it's going to be incredibly different at the pros. But I would love to see early signs of being able to produce points.
Yeah. Because
I just don't think that many people are expecting that. And if he is going to be a bottom six guy, there truly is no excitement in that because we have so many of them.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it goes to say in itself, he's on Team Canada at the World Juniors. So the World Juniors is different than an NHL roster because all four lines can produce.
Right.
NHL, your fourth line isn't really gonna. You're not banking on them to produce.
Right.
But in the World Juniors, they're going to be chipping in one way or another with assist or goal here and there. So I mean, he's there for a reason, and I think he'll be able to help produce with Team Canada. I mean, like you said, it's a star-studded roster, even without Shane Wright on that roster right now.
Right. I mean, and I think that like him more than Tyson Forster, where Tyson Forster, it's like I'm disappointed if I don't kind of see him noticeable every night on the ice. Like I'll be happy to see noticeable moments.
Right.
From Denoye.
Yes. And like you said, he's more of a defensive prowess type of guy, and he likes to play off the transition, kind of like our boy Morgan Frost. But I think if he's making those defensive plays and going in transition on the opposing team, that's gonna be that might be his highlight of the game.
Sure. I mean, and the one thing that kind of stands out with Denoye when I was kind of reading what other people had to say about him was work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody to summarize was like, this is the guy who runs through the wall for the rest of his team. That screams Tortorella.
Yep.
So it's like if you have a Tortorella style player who can, capitalize off the rush, kind of like a Morgan Frost, but has that more of that work ethic, you can only be excited about something like that,
Absolutely.
in my mind.
Yeah. So
You know,
where do you see him going after Worlds?
well, he'll go to Lehigh Valley.
You think?
Well, he
No,
he
he is
has
signed.
to.
Sorry, I thought he was
Yeah.
unsigned. My bad.
No, he has to.
So, yeah, there's only 2 of them that are signed out of these 4. And
Yeah,
it's
yep.
Forster and Denoye. My
The
bad.
2 Canadians.
Yep.
Yeah, he'll go to Lehigh Valley. He's not making the Flyers out of camp.
Not with all the bottom 6.
I also
we have.
don't think that he'll make the Flyers, period, this year. Just because I think there are just too many people in front of him
Right.
of the pecking order. I mean, granted, again, we've seen the injuries.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, that's a bad sign for somebody like him.
Right. No. I mean, I could see him probably toward after trade deadline if we're not in the playoff spot
Right.
and certain pieces are gone. Then we kind of bring him up to see what he can do at this level.
Sure.
But I say get him comfortable with the AHL style of play and see what he can do. If he's lighting it up, scoring 4 points a night, bring him up every once in a while. See what he can do.
Right. I mean, and maybe you disagree with me here, but I find that for legitimate professional players, the two-way game is so much easier to translate, to the next level that the struggle with him would be then adding on that more offensive component. I just feel like if he has the hockey sense, if he has the defensive responsibility down, right? As long as he can kind of keep up with the speed, obviously. But I just feel like that mentality is almost easier to translate to the next level.
No, I would agree with you. I feel like it is easier because I mean, if you bring in an offensive guy and it's not clicking, you're kind of lost. And
right.
I know you hate when I say this, but a Scott Lawton, he's a guy that lit it up in juniors, and we expected him to light it up, and he got lost, and that's why we transitioned him back to the AHL. Kind of just redeveloped his game into what we have now as the Swiss Army knife of Scott Lawton. He plays both sides of the puck very well, and I think if we already have that with Denoye, I think it's already just going to be go, and create the offensive chances when it comes.
Right. I mean, and the thing is when you look at his numbers and you go, well, this guy is a point producer. I immediately jumped to that idea of Morgan Frost, right? Morgan Frost. But if you compare the two, Morgan Frost was leaps and bounds more production in juniors. It's crazy to think that 80 points is just meh.
it's
in
good,
juniors.
But it's not.
Right. It's not crazy.
Yeah.
Where I just find somebody, and I hate that we're even bringing up Morgan Frost, but it's the thing that
it's just the name.
But for him, offensively, what worked for him isn't working anymore, and he has to try to figure that out.
Right.
I feel like somebody like Denoye has a good foundation elsewhere in his game.
Yep.
Where he can take the time to kind of just say, okay, what works? I can still help my team this way while I try to figure out
everything else.
Executing offensively.
Yep. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
All right. Anything else to say about Elliot Denoye?
No, nothing.
I mean, and I got to be honest, on a Canadian team that's going to have Connor Bedard,
Mason McTavish, there's all types of names on that team.
Right.
Just
these guys are not going to be the most talked about on the team.
Right.
Aside from Flyer fans.
I said in our high and wide chat, we should put Denoye, Forster, and Bedard together. We'll just see a glimpse of the Flyers' future.
One can only hope, my friend. One can only hope. We'll finish with the worst record and still
not get
a fourth pick. Yeah. Or that'll be the year Chuck trades it. All right. So we will move across the Atlantic to Sweden to Emil Andre. Emil Andre, also 2020 draft, the third and last prospect from the 2020 draft, second round pick by the Flyers. Do you have any background on this guy you want to provide? I know I kind of gave you this assignment last night.
No, it's fine. I mean, from what I gathered all together from him, smaller size, 5'9", something like that, 180. Like I'm like 2 inches smaller than him, about the same weight. Like, but I watched some highlights today and last night. He can move the puck to the blue line. It's pretty impressive what he can do. He's got great eyes. He doesn't care if a player's in front of him. He's going to toss the puck at the net, and
Yep.
it doesn't even look like it's a hope and a prayer that it's going to get there. He makes sure it gets there. So I'm very impressed by that because
Sure.
we don't see many kids that age that can just kind of dance around on the blue line and still create a high danger chance in front of the net. He lit it up in Sweden, in Sweden's second division.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say light it up. He's a defenseman, but he did well for a defenseman.
I mean, he was second in defenseman in points.
Right, for his team or the whole league?
It was the whole league, but it was among the drafted prospects.
The drafted process, yeah. What is it? 9 goals, 24 assists. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that if you have a defensive, offensive player that can throw the puck at the net and still rack up points. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, this year will be telling for him because he's going up to the SHL, which is Sweden's professional league, playing against men, the narrative that drives me absolutely bonkers, but it is true, I mean, and it will kind of be the time where we see whether or not the size is going to be an issue because 5'9" is small. I mean, especially for a defenseman. I mean, his offensive creativity and explosiveness and everything is fantastic. He's also not terribly defensively. He's not terrible defensively. The offense is definitely the thing that stands out, but I mean, he could just be torn to pieces at that size. I don't know. We'll see. I think that he was a kind of high risk, high reward pick. I mean, if he's able to like fill out his frame, that's not even the word, like turn into a stump.
Right. You can't really fill out much of a 5'9" player.
Right. Like what weight are you looking for in a 5'9" player?
180 is probably the top that you're going to get.
Yeah.
Unless you put on like a ton of muscle, become a bodybuilder.
Big guy and fly.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, as far as the World Juniors go, I do believe he's going to be the captain.
Yep. I've seen some hints towards that as well.
And I think like we've said with the professional roster, like, oh, look at all these season A's we're bringing in. But I do think at the junior level, like it
says a lot. It says a lot about you.
Exactly. If you can have players like that coming into your system, right? They've already got that mentality. That's very different.
Yeah. You had Cam York of 2020, 2021. He's the captain of USA. And that just spoke volumes as to the type of player that we are going to get coming into the NHL, what have you. So to be the captain of Sweden, that's a pretty big deal as well. Because they're always a dark horse in the World Juniors.
Sure.
You can never count them out.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's a very talented hockey country.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And I think the thing is too, it's like for me, I don't really care to see the highlight reel moments with him. They're gonna be there.
Yep.
But I don't think that stuff is going to be translatable to the NHL. There could be moments, right, where that happens, but that's not going to be what's going to make him a consistent hockey player on the Flyers or any other NHL team. I kind of want to see more of just that, like, I don't even know the right word to put it, but like basic style of game where he seems disciplined throughout and then, takes advantage of those moments, but it's just not all the time putting his partner at risk.
Right.
Kind of deal. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does a little bit. But I kind of want to go back to almost a year and a half ago at this point. Andre is the only player out of these four that was in the last World Juniors. Mm-hmm. The Patrick Bullies, before I was on, did a podcast on it.
Jesus Christ.
I just want to confirm that your notes are either still true to today or if they've differed.
Okay.
During that podcast, you said very conflicting scouting reports.
Yep.
Still true?
I mean, they were very conflicting on his draft
when he
year.
got drafted.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that most people have been happy with his kind of progression and growth.
Okay.
I think when he was drafted, their defense was terrible.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He was flashy with nothing else tangible.
Right. I think that's not as true.
Okay.
Like I said, I think he's built defensively. He's improved defensively more.
Yep. You also said he lacks fundamentals.
Okay.
And he caps out at a bottom 6 pair, and you should only put him out for offensive situations, such as the power play, and if you're just controlling the offensive zone.
I still agree with that. I mean, as far as projectability goes, 100%. Dude's 5'9".
But all right, so you're thinking more like professional level.
Sure, 100%.
For World Juniors, he's going to be the captain. He's probably playing top
pairing. Oh yeah. No, for sure. I'm thinking,
but for the future, yep. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, yep. Makes sense.
I also think that World Juniors, he might have just been like a bottom.
I'm
bottom
pretty sure
pairing.
He didn't play much.
Sure.
What was it?
So either way, I was right.
5 games played, 1 assist.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure even like when you were talking about those World Juniors, you're like, I don't even know if he'll play because there's so many guys coming in and out of the lineup because that was also COVID,
right?
And no one knew what was going on. So like he was kind of like a dark horse to even be in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking World Juniors this year, top pairing guy,
right?
He's
also the oldest,
right,
out of all these guys.
Right. I mean, and I also think that he's not the only Swedish World Junior captain that the Flyers have had recently. I think Adam Ginning was a captain.
Why do I not remember that name? How far?
I do believe that he's going to be on the Phantoms next year.
Okay. That name escapes me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, he's just one of those players where it's like, and for me, when I look at young guys, right, the flashiness, I always kind of take negatively,
right,
because I almost just worry that that's all they bring, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah,
at the in the NHL. I mean, and I don't think it'll work in the SHL either.
He'll be playing men. He'll figure it out.
Right. I mean, he's got larger ice, so he'll be able to. It's a little less physical, I guess, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, I'm excited for him for these World Juniors. That, like you said, he'll be the captain of Sweden. He'll try to be able to push that team to the next level.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I mean,
that's all I have for him, to be honest.
On to Switzerland we go. To the prospect I think both of us know the least about.
Yeah.
Brian Zanetti. He is a defenseman again for Switzerland. He was in the 2021 draft, was a 4th round pick, 110th overall. Hoagie, do you want to give us a little, or do you know?
Two-way defenders, what I've read about this guy, there's really not much out there about this guy. Like,
right.
You try to find video, and it's like the Zoom call that the Flyers beats had with him, and there's like nothing much. And he's like, "Yeah, I just finished dinner."
Well, I mean, his draft eligible year, I believe he was in one of the Swiss leagues.
Okay.
He was definitely in a European league. I'm assuming it's a Swiss league. Then last year he played at Peterborough, which will be interesting this year to watch him and J.R. Avon, one of the undrafted free agents. We'll talk about him some other time because they're both with Peterborough as of now. I mean, the junior leagues, they make trades like all the time.
Trade for cash half the time.
Right. I mean, he's mobile. From the little bit that I've seen, he moves the puck well.
Yep.
He's lanky. He's 6'2".
Yeah, he's lanky.
Right.
Lanky and no frame.
No. I mean, and it's like the biggest thing with this guy. To my understanding, if he were to sign a contract today, right, which likely isn't going to happen, the Flyers could provide him the opportunity to go to the AHL because when he was drafted, he was in Europe. So it would be the same thing as like signing a European player that you drafted that's playing in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they sign this guy, he is not ready. The OHL will be good for him. Hopefully he can throw on a little bit more size. But the funny thing to me, and I kind of want to go back and forth on this a little bit, is it's like anything I've read, it's like he's got good skill, but he needs to fill out his frame. How many times have we heard that? And it's almost like as long as this person fills out their frame, they're good to go.
How many times have we said that this podcast right now?
Sure.
Like 4 or 5 times.
They're kids.
Right.
I mean, they all have to fill out their frame, right? But it's like, it's not like you have to be, it's not like there's a chart and it's like, if you're 6'2", you need to be this weight. And if you're this weight, you are an NHLer. You can skate. You've done it.
Yep.
Right. Like, good job. I mean, there's just so much more to it. Obviously, like a big lanky guy is not going to bode well.
Yeah, no. Just looking at him, he kind of reminds me of a smaller Chara that just has nothing there.
Right. I mean, and especially if his skill is puck moving, right, and mobility, he's going to get destroyed. I mean, but you would assume that he is going to fill out his frame to the best of his ability, right? All bodies are different. What one person looks like after a few ho-hos isn't the same thing that somebody else is going to look like.
Yep.
But I don't know, when you're going to watch this guy in the World Juniors, what are you looking for?
Him to stand out a little bit. Right. Just to hear a name and to put him on the ice, to be honest, because there's no video on this guy. There's nothing on this guy. So
there's barely pictures.
Right. Like it's like he lives in Russia, to be honest. Like, my God.
Right.
I just want to have some familiarity with him, to see him play, to see what he has, and then we'll just take it from there. I think we kind of just have a basis of what we have. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Right. I mean, and historically, the Swiss are not fantastic in the World Juniors. They're not one of the powerhouses.
No.
They'll pull off an upset win here or there.
Right.
But like, I always look at if they're gonna be a good story, he better be a part of it, kind of thing.
Yep.
But like, I don't want to see any stupid mistakes. Something where it's just like, what a moron this guy is.
Right.
But I'm the same with you. Get a little bit more familiar with him.
Yeah.
He's obviously somebody that's a ways away from the NHL. And I think like we're at a point too where we don't necessarily need somebody like him immediately. We
don't need a two-way defender right now.
No. No, I mean, you're looking at somebody who could potentially round out a bottom pair in the future, in like the way future. And like
years.
we've got a bunch of those guys right now kind of coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nothing else really to say about poor Brian Zanetti.
I feel bad, but there's just like nothing there.
And I think the thing is too, is like what I've noticed in the past when I'm trying to evaluate defensemen in like the junior leagues, or
it's tough.
if they're not offensively gifted, it's even harder.
You don't see them. Yeah. Because the cameras are all on the offensive side of the puck. You don't see anything coming back.
Right.
If you see it coming back, it's when they're getting scored on by an all-star player that they're tracking. Like, that's all you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and when you think about the thing that this team really lacks, right, it's kind of the defenseman who can provide that clean outlet pass, who can get out of the defensive zone cleanly, right? Either with a pass or on his own skates.
Yep.
If I can see glimpses of that, I'll be like, okay, great. He's got something we don't have, which is pretty much a lot at this point in time.
Pretty much.
But any other tidbits about the World Juniors, the players that we mentioned, anything like that?
Just watch it.
Yep.
Just watch World Juniors. It's exciting hockey.
Right. I hope that the fact that it's in August doesn't take away from it.
I agree. Yeah, because usually it's, when I first started watching World Juniors, it was when I was in college when I had nothing better to do, and I'm staying up till 2:00 in the morning watching these games. Like, I hope that August kind of attracts some of the college people that like hockey, but I hope they don't lose some of that for some people that are still working and whatnot.
Sure. I mean, I loved it when it was overseas on winter break and it's on at 7:00 in the morning. And you can just sit there and watch
pour
hockey.
yourself a coffee. It's like, oh, this is great.
Beautiful. Yeah. I'm telling you, the NHL should bring back, they've probably never done this, but Saturday morning games or Sunday morning hockey, 8 a.m.
It's like the NFL Saturday morning
games
in London. Yeah.
How many times are you gonna watch the Jacksonville Jaguars play the Jets?
Right, get demolished.
But all right, well, I mean that went pretty well. I'm looking forward to do this. The way we're gonna do it is we're just gonna probably after this show we're gonna pick 4 or 5 more guys. Next week we'll hop on here and talk about them. And if anything has happened in the World Juniors, that's worth talking about, we can talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. If guys are lighting it up, we'll clue them in.
All right, great. So, Hoagie, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
You know where to find us.
Yeah, we don't need to do that crap. You can listen to this podcast on all the places that you listen to your podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Damn it.